Did you rip it? No. Did you rip it? No.
Okay,
Maybe. How about we let Bushin do it? Alright, let's Bushin. Okay. Like shaping morning. Oh, my hair. My hair's frizzy. My hair's messy. Okay, there we go. Wait. No, not. That's how we. Is that you?
Put your head back.
Okay. That doesn't work. It's puffy. Mine's good morning.
Well, say repeat it because.
Anyways. Good morning. Pushing. Pushing's opening it. It's doing telekinesis. Okay. Telekinesis. Okay. Don't. Read something comforting and inspiring every day, however brief. Make it a habit. It will enrich you with joy, dispersing the dark clouds that may envelop you afterwards, and providing you with well-being should something unpleasant come up. Everyone needs a good counselor, and in the pages of the gospel, you will find sure guidelines and words of wisdom for every occasion. If people would only think before acting, they would avert countless evils. Be one who does, even if others do not. Oh, wait.
That's right. Oh, I have to read that on that one. Okay.
Okay, there. Never.
Oh, wait. Okay. Never lose hope, just always come that may. If all conspires against you and failure has you at the brink of despair, continue to expect divine aid even so. The only thing that happens to us is what is best for us. The law of God is love. With love, all things are possible. When you think help may arrive too late, hold steady and you will discover that it did arrive just in the nick of time. People who despair have already lost part of the battle.
Oh, these messages are powerful. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Virginia. You may see if you want. See you later. Yeah.
Okay, ladies. It's always a hard act to follow. And welcome everybody to the Spiritual Society of Virginia on this lovely Heart Day. The message this morning is from Living Spring, from Emmanuel through the mediumship of Chico Javier. It's number 126. It's entitled, Let Us Help Always. Luke recorded this message in chapter 10, verse 29. And who is my neighbor? The neighbor to whom we must render immediate assistance is always the one who is closest to us. In short, he or she is, in every way, the person who shadows our footsteps. And since the divine law recommends that we love our neighbor we love our neighbors as ourselves, let us prepare to help infinitely. If it is a family member, let us help him or her with our active cooperation. If it is a hierarchical superior, let us practice respect and goodwill. If one of our subordinates comes looking for us, let us assist him or her with attention and kindness. If a malefactor, a person who has committed a crime, comes to us, let us practice fraternity, trying without affectation to open up to him or her new pathways to the good. And I had to look up the word affectation. What it means is a person that puts on an air, is artificial in any way, so that he would impress. You don't want to impress this person. to turn them off. You want to help them. If a sick person asks for our help, let us show compassion for his or her situation, whatever it may be. If a good person is helped by our word, let us encourage him or her to make him or her even better. If a bad person seeks our influence, let us assist him or her without ostentation, so that he or she may rectify him or herself. If Christianity dwells within our conscience, the systematic cultivation of the understanding and goodness as the force of law in our lives. Christians who are not involved in endeavors of the good are in a bad state of affairs, and they weigh heavily on the economy of society. In the gospel, remaining neutral means making very little effort. With Jesus near us, let us act closely with him. If Jesus is far off, we will delay the advance of the light. And we know that the Master loved and assisted. He fought for the light and resisted the darkness all the way to the cross. Therefore, before the neighbor who approaches your heart each day, always remember that you have been placed on this earth to learn and to help. And yesterday we were shopping at the grocery store, my wife and I, and I noticed a little girl. She was about 1 or 2 years old, maybe 2. She was walking around with her mother, and then there was another older girl that was being carried by her father, and I think his uncle was with him. And we did our shopping, and just so happened that both groups, the little girl with his mother, her mother, and the older girl who was being carried by the father, they were in line behind us. And of course, I can't resist. I have to say something to the little babies. And the little girl was over there. She was looking at the juices, and she was grabbing the juices. And I said hello to her. She ran right over to me, and I picked her up, and she was like, oh my God, she was just a joy. And what happened next was even more amazing. The girl, the older girl, she must have been 3 or 4. She was being held by her father. And she opens up and she says, my name is Layla, and I'm a girl. How to see all your neighbors.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Now we are ready to talk with God together in this special moment, feeling the presence of the heart of all hearts. Dear Mother, Father God, we are so happy to know of you, to feel you, and certain of your providence, abundant and kind. In this joyful day, we feel the presence of your messengers, the spirit doctors, nurses, and therapists who are here to treat us, to teach us, to give us their love in your name. In this exchange of two realms, we rejoice in the company of friends from afar. May our guest speaker today delight us with the beginning steps of Spiritism, making us feel close to the codifier Kardec, who is watching over us, never too far, always present, preparing new steps for humanity as we advance in our progress from the heart. Thank you, God, and so be it. Okay, today's Heart Day. Before I introduce you to the guest speaker, I need to show you all a 2-minute clip, because today is it's a tradition. It has been over the years, probably 10 years already. At the SSVA, we do Heart Day. It's like Valentine's Day to another level. And not only we will have a wonderful meal later together, but we are going to choose kindness. We're learning, but that's the deal. We want to learn. We want to learn, and we need to know how important it is. Not necessarily the kindness that people expect, but the kindness that we need to give. Jesus was the model of kindness, but not necessarily he gave the kindness that people expected, which seemed to be the complacency with their mistakes, etc. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about true kindness, which is firm and gentle at the same time. So let us watch this short clip. I will open the screen in a minute so I can share with the friends also over the internet, sharing the audio, making sure. And here we go. Okay. It's about the science of kindness. Huh?
Sometimes it's easy to feel like the world's getting harder. But if we look closer, on the news, on the web, on the street, we're anything but unkind. Every day, we hear new stories of people trying to make the world a better place. And together, we can make the world that little bit kinder for all of us. It all starts with just one person, you. The thing about kindness is that it's just about the only thing in the world that doubles when you share it. And it's a fact, backed by science. Studies have shown that if you perform just one random act of kindness a day, you'll not only reduce your stress, anxiety, and depression, but your body is flooded with the same hormones that make you and the person you've helped calmer, healthier, and happier. Serotonin, which heals your wounds, helps you relax and makes you feel good. Endorphins, which reduce pain. And oxytocin, which reduces blood pressure and makes you feel more loving and loved. You'll both be more energized, feel less aches and pains, more confident, and could even live longer. And if other people see you helping someone else, they'll be filled with those same feel-good hormones, meaning they're significantly more likely to pay it forward. Like taking that extra moment to hold the elevator for someone, spotting a coffee for a stranger who's just a few cents short, giving your neighbor a hand with their groceries, even just smiling and meaning it. It doesn't take much, but it can make a huge difference for everyone. Those people you've helped will help other people, and those other people will help even more people. And those random acts of kindness can start a chain reaction that can spread across an entire community, a city, a country, and with enough of us, the world. Now, isn't that the world we all want? And it all starts with one.
See, there's a foundation on it. So, talking about this, very interesting, but it's not about that. Okay, yeah, push the button. Thank you, Carlos. So today we are going to go to our rooms, right? Toddlers to one room, children to another room, older children, teens, preteens, whatever you name yourselves, younger ones will be there in your rooms preparing. We're going to do special activities today inside because it's our day, okay? For us here, it's going to be very special too because we have somebody who, for me, I remember when I first saw Charles Kempf. He's French. He's in France right now, but he's going to be here with us. He's right here. Charles, I remember in 2004, 20 years ago, at the International Spiritist meeting in Paris, celebrating 200 years of Kardec's birthday. I was there and I saw all these French Spiritist friends, and I said, wow, That's probably how Kardec sounded. Because he spoke languages, but his everyday life language was French. So when I remember listening to them, I was, oh my gosh, that's how Spiritism begun, in French. How romantic. Huh? So it's hard day. We need to go to the core. The core is about the heart, and the heart is Kardec. Kardec is everything for us. Without Kardec, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be a spiritual society. No matter, oh, but Kardec, he wrote it in the 19th century, but he is so wise that everything he wrote is still at the vanguard of our society. Society still doesn't grasp it. Maybe in 100 years we will. We're getting there, but it takes us to share, and it's also charity to share Spiritism. But there was a special trip that Kardec made that we want to know more. He didn't stay in Paris all the time. He was not born in Paris. And he didn't stay in Paris to share the teachings of Spiritism. He traveled within France to share the teachings at a time when transportation was not very simple. Life wasn't as simple as it is today to travel, to stay, hotels, etc. And Kardec was traveling, sharing. Unlike many great minds of the time who knew what he knew and kept it to themselves. Some of them wrote books. That's it. Kardec went further. And that's what Charles is going to talk to us about. He's a friend that I'm going to introduce. He's a friend of Spiritism. He has worked for the Spiritist movement, advocating for it in so many instances that he participated in the foundation of the International Spiritist Council, doing great works with Nestor Mazzotti, Cesar Perry, and other friends. And when Nestor Mazzotti passed away, he took over the chairmanship of the International Spiritist Council, and they did great works. Now he's focused in helping us also in English. He has been one of the hosts at Kardec Radio on Wednesdays in a special program with friends from Ireland, England, sometimes even Lithuania, who are together talking about Spiritism in its applications. The program is called Spiritual Light. How about if we say hi and welcome him? Huh? He's not seeing you, but he will now. Say hi to our friend.
Hello.
Say welcome, Mr. Charles. Right? Right? And pushing. Yay! All right, friends. So, with further ado, because we have much to do, right? It rhymes. It even rhymes. We want to listen from you, Charles. I just want to say, how are you?
Hello. Good morning, Vanessa. Good morning, all. I'm very well. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Say something in French, please. Please, Charles.
I apologize for that. Huh? My English is not 100%, but hopefully yet you still can understand it.
But can you say something in French?
Ah
now?
oui, bien sûr, sans pas de problème. C'est plus facile pour moi en français.
You feel Kardec? You know what he said, right? Yeah, it's easy for him. Yeah, to speak English. Okay, you feel Kardec closer to your heart today? It's hard day. It's Kardec's day. Okay, so Miss Daisy and Miss Carol will be inside with everybody. So can you follow them while the rest of us will be here? Please, thank you. It's gonna be fun. If they're majority, right? You know, Daisy, that these two, one is 11, one is 9, so they can be in two different. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, so Charles, would you like that I shared your camera already?
You can, yes.
Yes.
No
Okay, so
problem.
let me share your camera, so then you can use it whenever you feel like it. And I'll be off screen to let you begin, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Thank you also for this introduction. Thank you for the prayer and for the readings. Thank you so much also for this short video, which is telling a basic truth. And at the end of this presentation, we will see what was the message from Kardec to the Spiritists in Lyon and Bordeaux in 1862. And you will see that it is very close to what has been so nicely illustrated in this short clip that you have shown us. Indeed, Kardec made observations, studies, analysis, then he wrote books, Spirit's book, Medium's book, 1861, and the three others after this date. But he started to get a lot of correspondence of people everywhere around the world, also everywhere in France, particularly in the city of Lyon, where he was born, but where he never lived. He lived in a city close by, which is Bourg-en-Bresse, and then later on in Paris. As I explained a little bit during the last live I made for you, it was in 2020 already. And so he not only codified the Spiritist body of knowledge, but he also put it into practice, exemplified. So he went to support his fellows traveling. As Vanessa, as you said, the travels were not so easy, but they were still a little bit easier than a couple of years before, because the railways were mostly developed, and he could do this journey in 1862 mostly by train, which was a little bit more comfortable than by road with a lot of dust and so on, as it was before, also quicker. So he had a little bit better conditions. Nevertheless, he had paying, of course, with his own money, not with the money earned by Spiritism, nothing like this. And he was really expected. There was a huge expectation from all the Spiritists everywhere around France to receiving and to listen to his words. So he did several travels in his at that time. Here I have a list of them. The first travel was 1860, but it was a short one. You can see here the list of cities. He went mostly to Lyon and a little bit further to Saint-Étienne. 1861, the same, but he made one travel to Lyon, then back to Paris, then another travel to Bordeaux, which is the other side of France, and then again back to Paris, because there were a lot of fellows also in Bordeaux. In 1862 is, you can see, a long list of cities he visited. That was the longest and the biggest travel he made. Later on, he made some other travels. 1863 in Saint-Adresse, it's basically where he wrote the Gospel according to Spiritism. He rented a small house on the beach, and he was alone there for health problem mostly. So he was expected to travel to Lyon, but did not. I will explain the reason later. 1864, he made also kind of a leisure travel in Switzerland, but even so, he visited, for instance, in Zimmerwald, a person which had the capacities of psychometry, of seeing things about him, but about also spiritism and future events. Then the 1865 again in Switzerland. That was again for health reasons. He had some heart difficulties and some breathing problems as well. So the air of the mountains were helping to preserve his health. 1866 again Switzerland, and 1867 it was the last travel, the only one he did together with his spouse Amélie Boudet, where he visited Orléans, Tours, and Bordeaux. And by the way, when he was in Tours, 1867, that is where he met a young guy, which was called Léon Denis, who discovered his books a couple of years earlier. But today we will focus mostly on this journey in 1862. You can see on the right side the map of all the cities he has visited. So you should follow the red arrows where they are bypassing the black arrows. You have on the right side a list of the cities where he physically was. And on the lower side, you have cities of spiritists who traveled to see him when he was passing close by. So he really, at that year, had the opportunity to meet a lot of fellow spiritists, and he could, take the feedback from the field, which is absolutely fundamental for him, seeing all the benefits the spiritist body of knowledge did bring already to a lot of them, in particular the city of Lyon, which was quite poor at that time. It was the industry of silk with a lot of hard workers and difficult conditions. And in Bordeaux as well, a lot of industry. And he could see how the spiritist body of knowledge was useful and helpful for these poor and simple people. Here you can see the references I used. Of course, there is a small booklet published by Allan Kardec, Spiritist Journey in 1862. I don't know if it's translated into English, but it exists in French, in Portuguese, and in Spanish. Also, I used 13 letters that appeared some time ago, exchanged between Amélie, who stayed in Paris, and him, who was traveling. That is also a big source of information. Then the Revue Spirit, or Spiritist magazine, of November and December 62, where he had written some, feedback of this travel. And also in the documents which appeared in 2018, there is an original notebook where Allan Kardec took notes during his travel. So this one is not yet published on this portal that I showed you this also last time in 2020. Several hundreds of original have already been published on this portal, projetocardec.ufjf.br. It is so far in French and in Portuguese, yet missing a third translation also in English, but that's just a question of time. It will be available also in English. So this booklet is not on this portal, but all the letters that has been exchanged between Amélie and Kardec during this period have been put already. And here you can see, if you look to this portal, you can see these references of the 13 letters who were already published. You can see the original images in high definition. You can see the French transcription, and you can see also the Portuguese translation. Spanish translations are ongoing, and hopefully soon we will also have English translation of all this material to be available for everyone. Why did Amélie Boudet stay in Paris? Because there was a lot to do in Kardec's absence: correspondence, visitor, distribution of books at the request of the bookshops. Also, the Spiritist magazine now continue being published in September and October. You can see here on the previous slide that his travel, he left Paris the 1st of September and went back the 21st of October. So he was more than 6 weeks out of Paris, and Amélie had to take care about everything, and also some refurbishment works who were ongoing in their home, located in Villa Ségur, which at that time was in the campaign. It was not yet city urbanized like today. Okay. So I will not talk too much about these letters. It would take too much time, but I will talk more about this notebook, where there is a lot of information that is not very known yet. It is part of this Allan Kardec .online collection. The original is in Brazil, São Paulo, and it is not yet published, but it's a question of time because the images are already available, the transcription is also available, but still missing, how to say, the final formatting and the Portuguese translations to have it published on the portal as well. Okay. So this booklet, we find in it notes between travel preparation, 3rd of August 1862, so more or less 1 month before traveling, and also with some evaluation after his return. The last note in the booklet is 3rd of November 1862. Okay. And here again, we will not see the whole of the notes he took. We will only focus on some of them. But if you want to have more information, I can make the full transcription of the booklet available in French language, of course, on request. So from the booklet, we will start in this page, which is dated, which is from Lyon, dated September 16th, 1862. So that is the date where Kardec arrived in Lyon, as you have seen on the map. Maybe could quickly go back. He first traveled to a city of Sens, where he had some fellows, and then he went to Thonon. It's on the Geneva Lake, Lehman Lake. And from Thonon, he made a travel to Morzine, because in Morzine there was a phenomenon, kind of collective obsession or subjugation happening. A lot of young ladies were like possessed by spirits. The Bishop of Geneva went there in order to try to solve the problem with the cross and all the rituals from the church. But the history tells he went back as quickly as he came because he could not reach any result. And Kardec was there. It does not say exactly if he solved the problem. At the end, the problem has been solved based mostly on his advices by some other local fellows he had. But he went there exactly to study the phenomenon by himself, and he wrote later on an article in the Revue Spirit, Spiritist magazine, about this episode. And then only from Thonon he went to Lyon. That is why he, even starting 1st of September, he arrived in Lyon only 16th of September 1862. Okay. And it starts with a note. So having gone to pay a visit to Mr. Bélanger, Secretary General of the Police, regarding the request of authorization that had been made for the large meeting, the large gathering, who was for the next day, 17th. It was 600 to 700 people joining to hear the Kardec speech. And for that, of course, at that time, it was needed to have an authorization, and they did not get the authorization. I mean, on the 16th, they did not yet have the authorization. He personally was not very favorable. However, he said if it were up to him, he would not object. Now, the mayor having reserved this type of authorization for him, he would have to wait for his orders. The mayor being absent, traveling, and not due to return until Friday, which is the day after the meeting, so too late. It was to be feared that permission could not be obtained before his return. As the meeting was scheduled for the following day, Wednesday the 17th, this delay became very embarrassing, assuming that authorization was given, which was uncertain. Here are the communication received on this subject by the spirits. So Kardec at that time really, when he had issues like this, even material issues, like to have the authorization to have the gathering for the good cause, of course, He did never hesitate to ask the question to the spirit, what shall we do? What do you advise? And so on. So let's see what the spirits wrote, and he received by communication when he was visiting Spiritist group in a mediumistic meeting on that day, September 16th. Question to the spirits. What should we infer from the dispositions of the authority and Mr. Bélanger in the relation to permission being sought? Reply from the spirit. There are always difficulties in obtaining a permit like the one you are requesting. And Mr. Bélanger, who is currently in disgrace, wanted to be neutral in this matter to maintain his autonomy and his job, of course, his position. For reasons that it is useless for you to know, as they are trivialities so futile that they disappear in smoke, material reason or ambition or whatsoever, Mr. Bélanger thinks that Spiritism will be used to dismiss him, to have him being fired. And for this reason, he is more hostile than useful to the cause you serve. But he is not the major, and the government cannot refuse this year what it approved last year. Mr. Villon, which was a fellow of Kardec, which was in Lyon and in charge of all these formalities, must see Mr. Roussin again. And Mr. Roussin is the police commissioner. Here is what happened, the spirit saying. The cardinal, the bishop, has asked that you not be allowed to gather for the benefit of the many flocks you wish to bypass. So the cardinal was basically against this meeting to happen. Mr. Bélanger, ill-disposed in his favor, in your favor, sorry, leans on the side of the cardinal, and the petition sent to the senator also embarrasses him. For recently, asking Paris for instruction regarding you, again, sorry, that's a mistake of translation, he was told by Paris authorities, do as we do, leave them free to act. The senator knows, therefore, that the emperor not only tolerates you, but is also favorable to you. And it's known that the emperor, Napoleon III, was favorable to Kardec because Kardec met him in some gathering with the medium Daniel Douglas Home, where some phenomenon of materialization and levitation happened. So the emperor was somehow interested, and the empress as well, in this phenomenon. So he was always leaving Kardec to do and to gather and to found the Parisian Society of Spiritist Researches, studies, sorry. So he was always favorable, and this helped a lot for the codification to be made. And this came then up to Lyon, because it was known also there, and Lyon, the cardinal made a big pressure. On the other hand, the cardinal, who dislikes us in general, and the master in particular, so the master, you, Kardec, has become enraged against you and wants to hold the senator responsible for your meeting. So you see, complex political influence, fight, difficult situation. Spirit is continuing. It is necessary, in my opinion, to use diplomacy and consult the mayor's private secretary. You must also see Mr. Roussin, who is secretly devoted to you. This the spirits can read in the heads and in the intention of each of these people and know the one who are favorable and the one who are not, which for us is much more difficult to detect. As this is just one meeting and the circumstances are exceptional, Mr. Roussin will take measures in your favor, be assured. We agree that this meeting is of great importance, we, the spirits, because it will be decisive. Consult the secretary and speak to him properly, because he may well tell you that he must take orders from Paris and drag you away. Don't talk about last year. Because last year in 1861, he was in Lyon and he got the authorization for the gathering. You were born, so Spiritism was at the beginning, and it was thought that you were a flash in the pan. Spiritism has grown, it is a power, and we fight with it. If it were a fly, we let it fly. It became an eagle, and we fear its gaze. So the situation compared with the year before, 1861, was a little bit more complicated. Okay. We would like for you to have this permission, but in general interest for the cause, if it were refused, the master would still grow. So even in case of refusal, it would make a kind of a positive advertisement for Spiritism and for Kardec, as did the Auto de Fe in Barcelona, where they burned Spiritism book. That was the huge trigger of the development of Spiritism in Spain at that time. Remember that Christ was never greater than on Golgotha. And remember, in the day of struggle, what I'm telling you here. Question. As things stand, what should be done? You see, Kardec always very direct, very obstinate. What shall we do? Shall we go, not go, etc.? The reply from the spirits. I told you, take your actions with the Major Secretary. We support you. It will respond that the request has been sent and is awaiting a response. You will, my friend, have one more step to take with Mr. Roussin, but don't go to the secretary yourself. It's up to your followers in Lyon to ask permission to receive you, and not up to you to ask him for permission to make you heard. I repeat, the answer is subordinate to the will of the senator, who would like to say no. Signed at your protecting spirit. And Kardec continued, question, will the general meeting be satisfactory? Reply, if we judge by the minds of the adversaries and the arrangements they make, it should not pass peacefully, but we will take care of you. And in a couple of minutes, you will understand what this means. Whatever meeting location you choose, the movers and the shakers will come in. We will look for the opportunity to prevent their rise and thwart their plots. And then on the next page of this booklet, of this notebook, Kardec put another title, Sudden Death of the Marshal de Castellane on September 16, 1862. So that same day where he had the first communication, the day before the gathering, a very famous person, Castellane was a marshal from Napoleon I, who was very brilliant during the wars and so on, and who had a huge influence everywhere in Lyon. And he died suddenly on that day, the day before the general gathering. And Kardec curiously asked, what is the cause of this unexpected death? And look to the reply of the spirits. You know, my friend, nothing is due to chance. The martial death was brought forward by a few days for you. You can get a salutary benefit during your stay in Lyon. The smallest causes generate the biggest events. Remember that whenever the civilizing torrent extends, the stones will be removed. He was the obstacle, he was knocked down. Thus, all serious obstacles that oppose the fulfillment of God's purpose will be broken. So imagine they have brought forward by a few days his return to the spiritual home. So it looks incredible. And we can even ask, how could that happen? The spirits are always living of free will and so on. So how could they advance the death, the disincarnation of this marshal by a couple of days, just for removing one of the obstacles to get that authorization? So the story does not tell it in detail, but we can imagine probably when the marshal was sleeping, the spirits had a chat with him. Look, you are about to make a big mistake. Maybe it's better you accept to come back to us a couple of days earlier. And he probably, during this speech when he was sleeping, this speech with the spirits, probably agreed, okay, let's go. It's made better like that. I agree. So let's do it. And this is maybe one of the how it happened, leaving the full free will also to all of us. Question. How can the martial death help the cause? Asked Kardec, because he was not involved in the message he got the day earlier. Reply. He was a material obstacle to the success of this great social renewal. He prevented the rise of the military, for whom he was a scarecrow. he has allied himself with a cardinal against you. And that is then the key reason. Huh? And you don't know what a Jesuit supported by a sabre can do. The sabre is broken. The Jesuit will first sweat with fear before falling. His punishment begins. You don't know how many warnings the cardinal received. So the cardinal was really not willing to hear, huh? But he lost a very big support through this marshal, which was in favor of him, of the cardinal. Questions of Kardec. But it seems to me that since someone had to disappear, it would have been more helpful if it had been the cardinal himself. Reply of the spirits. You say it was better to remove the cardinal. There are swarms of cardinal. In his place, another would come, and it would always be the same things. Whereas there are no marshals like Castellan every day. We will know how to put them aside when necessary. So spirits even telling the reason why the action was in this way and not of the bishop himself. Nevertheless, they did not get, they still did not have the authorization. So the day of the meeting, which was in the evening, again, Mr. Villon went to see the General Secretary, Mr. Bélanger. He said, no, I'm not here, I cannot, we don't find your claiming letter. And then, okay, we found it and whatever. And suddenly he came back, found the letter in a package, and he came and signed the authorization. So this is what Mr. Villon, who was there, has seen. At the last minute, he got the authorization, and he did not know why. Here you have the image of the booklet, of the notebook at the page of what is transcribed here, partially at least, because here, again, I had to cut a little bit to fit within the time schedule we have. And the spirits are explaining what happened. It appears that during this interval, a new dispatch was sent to Paris, and that the reply eliminated all hesitation. It was the same reply as they got already before. Two high-ranking Polish officers asked as a favor to participate in the meeting. Look, what an opportunity. And Kardec told, of course, you are welcome, you can come, we have nothing to hide. They actually arrived there and were placed next to the desk where Kardec was standing during his speech, as was Mr. Roussin, the Polish commissioner, who had been invited. These three gentlemen were placed in evidence, a circumstance that had its effect imposing themselves on the rioters, because the rioters had prepared to make a mess out of the gathering, as we will see in a couple of seconds. So this is now the notes that Kardec has taken on September 18th, the day after the general session. He again was in a spiritist group in a mediumistic meeting and had the chance to make questions to the spirits. What do you think of the results of the session? Answer of the spirits. The General Assembly surpassed the effect we expected from it because it won the esteem of the administrative authority. So these policemen who were there could hear what Kardec has to say. And our object in asking you for this speech was not merely to deal a great blow on the minds of the masses, but rather to show the government in what way you were leading your followers, to show the pacific aspect of Spiritism, all the advices against any form of violence and so on, to collaborate in the social peace and stability and so on. So, of course, this going to the earth of the policemen was extremely positively perceived. I confess that we did not expect such a result, continues the spirit. The three police chiefs left very satisfied and ready to support you. They have finally understood that you have been sent to bring all about moral reform, and one of them in particular will be one of your most ardent followers. Look at that. Your speech, which was not only for those who heard it, but also for those who will read it, because it will be printed, thus achieved the objective we expected from it. Now, let's give some details about how we handle approval marks. So you see, that is the reason why Kardec published this small booklet where you have the full transcription of the speech Kardec has done. So here again, also we cannot look to the full extent. I will just make some excerpts of it in the next slides. So the spirit continues. Followers would applaud. The applause of the followers would have been a signal that would have brought some whistles. It would have been regrettable, and the journalist present, and who is preparing a long criticism against you, would not have failed to speak and to write very loudly of his brand of disapproval, which would have come, according to him, from your camp. So your people are being whistling, not the opponent. While he would have been duly been its author. So we hinted at the idea of putting your question sheet on the last page of your speech. It was believed all around you that you were not finished, and no impetus was given to the brave for the applauses. So you see, Kardec had a piece of paper. So he was reading his discourse and then putting each sheet on the table again. And at the end, he finished the discourse, but he still had in hand one paper with the questions, and this made such that the people thought, okay, his speech is not finished, and so jeopardized the plan of the people who wanted to mess up the meeting. And Kardec made the note saying, it's true, but I was really, this page of question was at the end of my discourse. I did not do it by purpose. Probably he was influenced by the spirit to do it like that in order to have this to happen. Here the spirit continues. Certainly they would have been well deserved, but they would have unfailingly led to an unfortunate scene that we wanted to avoid. So the spirits did not want the meeting to be messed, at least too much. And Kardec continues with question. The presence of Mr. Roussin, so the high officer of the police, and the two other police chiefs must have bothered the troublemakers, especially when they saw the signs of sympathy they gave me. Reply, you can still see an intervention of the hidden agents who presided over this meeting. We, the spirits, closed the door through which Mr. Roussin could have passed without incident to reach immediately the table, but without being noticed. Forced to enter through the crowded main gate, he had to walk through the crowd, climbing onto the benches so as not to escape anyone's gaze in order to reach the table in front of the meeting where Kardec was standing, and Kardec, of course, welcoming him. So everybody could see the policemen entering, even the people which were there to mess up the meeting. And the spirit continues, what you did not notice, and which a hostile demonstration had prepared, was a sort of closed hood hanging on a stake just in front of you, and behind which an agitator had to sneak in and imitate the rooster's crow. You placed Mr. Roussin just in your right and right in front of this hood. The inventor was furious. He could not exercise his joke. It's incredible to see how the spirits have managed to influence such small things in order to avoid happening what they didn't want to happen. So this is just to see how the spirits collaborated in that meeting to happen without giving too much opening for this mess that some people who were there wanted to organize. So it shows Kardec invested himself a lot. He worked 20 hours daily, 7 days a week. He traveled at his own expenses. He was really tireless, doing whatever he could to help wherever it was needed and so on. But on the other side, he never lacked, he was never missing the assistance of the spirits. And this is just a demonstration. So, of course, this has never been published at the time of Kardec. It could not be published at that time. It would have really been difficult. But today, where this booklet is coming to us, we can see, written by the hand of Kardec himself, all these episodes to let us understand a little bit better how the things happened and how the spirits were helping at that moment. So now I will just make some short excerpts of this speech that Kardec delivered, which is published in the small booklet, Spiritist Journey in 1862. And the same speech or similar speech was given in Lyon and Bordeaux. So I will just show in the time remaining, Vanessa, please interrupt when you see that I'm passing the time, so I can shorten a little bit more. But to show you the content of this speech, which is absolutely outstanding, and it's really worth, if you never read this speech, please read it, because you will see it's absolutely fantastic. And I hope by the small excerpts I will show you now to give you the will to read it in its full extent, because it's really something absolutely fantastic. So, gentlemen and dear Spiritist brothers, you are no longer beginners in Spiritism. Therefore, today I will leave aside the practical details about which, I must recognize, you are sufficiently clear to consider the question in a broader aspect, especially in its consequences. So, Kardec clearly showing here the Spiritists began with phenomenon, with this moving, turning, and dancing table and whatever, or with the raps in Hydesville a couple of years before. But Kardec did not stop on looking, observing, and listing, fooling magazines out of phenomenon. He went to all the consequences, and these consequences are philosophical. Yes, the spirit exists, so what? Where does it come from? Where does it go to? What are the moral teachings that the spirits are giving us? What are the moral and ethical consequences of the teachings? And this is basically the codification. And he was here homenageing his fellows in Lyon, who understood this already, not to stay at the phenomenon only, but to go until the end of all the consequences, which is also implying some action on us, which was wonderfully shown in the small videos that Vanessa showed at the beginning. If we want to change the world, the best, quickest, and most efficient way is to change ourselves first. And they, through example, the others will change as well. The video is very good and came at the right moment. This was the reason that led me to take this opportunity to explain the cause of certain antagonism that many people are surprised to encounter on my path. So in Lyon, there were two types of spiritists. There were some spiritists that were willing to seek some advantage out of it, to, for instance, paid mediumship or stuff like that. And there were the others who were practicing it in a more disinterested way, and how to say, encouraged by the spiritist knowledge to put in practice through love our neighbors and make charity. And Kardec is saying, so antagonism comes from this. Not all have understood it fully. If the Christ goodness par excellence was the target of everything that evil could imagine, why should we be surprised that this happens to those who are worth 100 times less? He's talking about himself, comparing him with Jesus. And really, Jesus came here to help us. And what did we do? We did really to Jesus the worst who evil could imagine, and to put him on the cross. And Kardec mentions this. So if Christ suffered, why should I or we spiritists not suffer the same type of oppositions? Several times, continues Kardec, we have observed spirits as ungrateful as men, being touched as spirits by the good they had, but the good we had done to them. And this memory awakening good thoughts in them facilitates their path to good and repentance, helping to shorten their suffering. Only Spiritism could reveal this result of beneficence. It was only up to him, through communication from beyond the grave, to show the charitable side of this maxim: a benefit is never lost, instead of the selfish meaning attributed to it. So this he makes here allusion to the one of the Spiritist, the work that we find in the Spiritist movement, which is assistance of spirits in need, the lost spirits, and to help them to find their way in the Spiritist world, in the spirits world, thanks to the mediumistic meetings. So Kardec is showing this as an example of good actions done through the Spiritist. But what may seem most surprising is that I have opponents even among followers of Spiritism. How now? This is where an explanation is necessary. Among those who adopt the Spiritist ideas, there are, as you know, three very distinct categories. First, those who believe purely and simply in the phenomenon and manifestation, but who do not deduce any moral consequences from them. Second, those who see the moral side but apply it to others and not to themselves. And third, those who accept for themselves all the consequences of the doctrine and who practice or strive to practice their moral. So clearly, in the two first categories, some may not like this accent strongly put to the moral to be deduced, the moral consequences to be deduced about Spiritism, and who could be then opponents to Allan Kardec, as it appeared. No, you go too quickly. The facts are not yet demonstrated scientifically. You should wait science to demonstrate the facts before going to draw the consequences and so on. Luckily, Kardec did not follow or listen to them, because otherwise, today, 160 years, more than 160 years later, we would still be waiting. So luckily, Kardec was inspired to go up to these moral consequences and the necessity of practice of these teachings. Otherwise, the Spiritist body of knowledge would not be what it is, and we probably would not have 40 million Spiritists around the world nowadays. Love one another, forgive your enemies. Here we see the moral consequences. Repay evil with good, for good. Do not have hatred, nor rancor, nor animosity, nor envy, nor jealousy. Be severe with yourself and indulgent towards others. Such must be the feelings of a true Spiritist. One who sees the background and not the form, who puts the spirits above matter. He may have enemies, but he is no one's enemy. For he does not wish harm to anyone, and, with even greater reason, does not seek to harm to anyone. Spiritist has the motto, outside of charity there is no salvation, which means outside of charity there are no true Spiritists. Remember that this was said by Kardec in this speech, and the policeman hearing to all this, listening to all this. And here really Kardec makes a kind of a summary of what are the moral consequences of Spiritists. Here you have them. And by the way, we have them since more than 2,000 years. Jesus told the same things, and in all the other religions around the world, you will find all these moral teachings, which are basically universal. Kardec continues, one feels that moral void that incredulity and materialism create around man. It is understood that these doctrines dig an abyss for society, that destroy the most solid bonds, those of fraternity. Here he is showing the consequences of incredulity and materialism. Spiritism only addresses those for whom the intellectual food given to them is no longer sufficient, and their number is large enough for it to concern itself with others. So the people who do not want to believe, who do not want to follow, who are saying we are crazy, let's not lose time a lot for them. We love them. We give them all the good we can, but we don't also lose too much time with them. Let's go to the people who are really looking for something different. The people who did not find, who were looking for something logical about life philosophy and so on, who did not find them in the dogmatic approach of the religions. Those, yes, which are seeking these teachings, will find them in the Spiritist body of knowledge. This was the case of Léon Denis, as we have thought about it also in other circumstances when he discovered the Spirit's book. Same happened to Camille Flammarion and so on. So they were not attracted by the phenomenon themselves, but by the teaching and the moral consequences, the intellectual food. And Kardec is saying, why does Spiritism please? Spiritism pleases, first, because it satisfies man's instinctive aspirations for the future. Because the void in the future is harming us. Because it presents, second, because it presents the future in an aspect that reason can admit, and not in a dogmatic or religious dogmatic approach. Third, because the certainty of the future life makes man suffer without complaining about the miseries of the present life. Suffering is a given. A lot of people, most of the people, or mostly all the people in their life at a moment or another are suffering. Okay. But suffering, then what happens when the people suffer? They claim, why me? God is not fair, and so on and so on. No, with the Spiritist body of knowledge, we see a good reason why this suffering are happening and how they are useful for us and helping us in our evolution. 4, because with a plurality of existences, these miseries have a reason for being. They are explainable, and instead of accusing Providence, they, the Spiritists, consider them fair and accept them without murmuring. 5, because man is happy to know that the beings that are dear to him are not lost forever when they die, that he will find them again, and that they are almost always by his side. And 6, because all the maxims given by spirits tend to make men better towards each other. So this is exactly the consoling aspect of Spiritism, which is one of the key reasons for the success, particularly in the city of Lyon, with all these hard workers with difficult and misery life they had and found the courage, the consolation in the Spiritist body of knowledge. Vanessa, please interrupt me when we are out of time. I still have some slides, so until as long as you don't interrupt me, I will continue a little bit. When we consider the current state of society, and he's talking about society, also an interesting subject for the policeman who were there, we are tempted to view its transformation as a miracle. Well, it's a miracle that Spiritism can and must perform, because it is in God's design. Through the watchword, outside of charity, there is no salvation. So this is really the watchword, the motto of the Spiritists, and that Kardec put in evidence everywhere. It's not outside of Spiritism, there is no salvation. It's outside of charity. So Spiritism, as well as any other religion, is just a way, just a tool for the goal, which is charity. So Spiritist, which is, as we have seen before, studying and not doing charity, is not worth more than an atheist, which is charitable. So what is important for the salvation is the charity, nothing else. Let society take this maxim as its motto and follow it according to its conduct, instead of the one that is on the agenda. Well-ordered charity begins by oneself, and everything will change. So the well-ordered charity begins with oneself is exactly how to say, deviating the meaning of the charity. It's coming from it's a selfish statement. First me, and then only the others. Whilst charity is exactly the opposite. It's abnegation. Put the interests of the collectivity before our own personal interest. And that is what we are missing in our world, particularly with our leaders. Okay.
Hey, Charles,
And
I have a question for you, if you don't mind me interrupting you.
yes,
The question is this. I wonder why at the time Kardec emphasized so much charity, because for us nowadays, it's quite understandable. When you say charity nowadays, even companies, they are looked better when they are in that mode. But at Kardec's time, were people really appreciative of that already? Because he emphasized it so much.
yes. Yes, and by the way, to understand better what charity is, he gives a definition in the Spirit's book, the question 886. What is charity as understood by Jesus or whatever? And the spirits are answering, charity is benevolence for everyone, indulgence for the imperfections of the others, and forgiveness of the offenses you suffered. So you can see that per the definition of charity, if everyone would be benevolent towards the others, indulgent towards the mistakes that the others are doing, because we are not perfect, we are all imperfect, so we do mistakes. So we need, in order to live together, we need this indulgence. And also in the next degree, when some harm has been done to us, to forgive it. Not 7 times, but 70 times, 7 times, as Jesus has told. So this is exactly the definition of charity. If this would be applied in the society, and this is what Kardec is writing here, then the society will change completely. Why do we need laws? Why do we need exactly to protect us against the abuses of evil people? Why do the evil people being caught and go to prison sometimes? Why are there laws now to protect even economically the properties and intellectual property and confidentialities, not leaving social media to do everywhere? Because you have always people willing to push, to abuse, to explore the neighbors. But once this motto will be understood in his true sense, then you don't need these laws anymore. The society will be governed by itself. But this is not for now. It's for the world of regeneration, which still may take, as you have told it, Vanessa, some 100 years or some decades or maybe some centuries to come. But
Yeah.
that is exactly the key. And what motivates us to do this charity is the fact, the spiritualist paradigm, the fact we know we have the soul, and that this soul is immortal, and that the day we will leave this earth and go back to the spiritual world, we take nothing material with us. Not the money, not the car, not the house, not even the physical body. So what is important are the values of the spirits. And what are the values of the spirits is exactly this: goodness, charity, compassion, disinterestedness. This is what we will take with us. We will take also our conscience, good or bad, with us, as we can see in No Solar, for instance, Spiritual Home book, and also in the movie which has been made, and now we have even a second one. Hopefully it will arrive soon. In Europe, it always takes some weeks because of this problematics of right and so on, which is also a wonderful example of that.
Yeah, because Charles, when we read the book 2000 years ago, we get to know that at Jesus' time, charity wasn't fashionable at all. It wasn't very popular. On the contrary, people were like, what? We're going to help the poor, the needy, and the sick? That's crazy. They are just, they are punished by the gods, so they are put aside. And Jesus comes and reverses the whole order. And then the church later makes it center stage in so many ways. So I'm figuring out that at Kardec's time, when he talks about salvation, he's trying to bridge it up, with the church at the time, but that says so much about salvation, which is beyond just giving alms, but really being this deeper sense of charity. And he revolutionizes, as you said, right? Telling us that no matter what happens, if we're not charitable, we're not going to have clear conscience. So when he's saying salvation, he's saying we need to do this deeper transformation, right?
Exactly.
To ace at life. As you said, no matter if we pay the bills, if we do our duties, but then deep inside we're not charitable, what is this life all about? Right?
Exactly. And as I told, this is a phrase which looks like another one, for instance, which exists also. Out of the Roman Catholic Church, there is no salvation. And this type of sentence you can find in a lot of other religions. So Kardec made a disruption towards this. Otherwise, he would have written, out of Spiritism, there is no salvation, you see. But that's not what he did. Charity is, today there is a new expression which is growing and growing and growing, and I encourage all of you to look about it, because it's very close to this notion, is what is called spiritual intelligence, or even SQ, spiritual quotient. We know the IQ, intellectual quotient, we know the EQ, which is the emotional quotient, and there is a new one now, which is spiritual quotient. What is it about? Exactly this. Spiritual quotient is to be humble, to collaborate inside the team, not to compete, instead of competing, collaborating, to be benevolent towards the other member of the team. This new concept of leadership, where the leader is together with his team, motivating them to reach the goals, and not just sitting in an office somewhere and distributing punishments or rewards. All these notions are now popping up, even in non-religious, ambience, like business. Now, today, it's in the human resources, more and more, this notion of spiritual intelligence is evaluated, and you have a lot of books written about them. I really encourage all of you, read them, go to Wikipedia, look what it is about, look what are the values, and you will see exactly what Kardec was meaning through the word charity, because he writes a lot in this speech. How can we recognize the charity? And with the charity, we cannot make mistakes, really. The true charity, you can recognize it without, making errors in the evaluation.
Beautiful. Thank you, Charles. But we want to ask if anybody has a question. You have a question, John?
Is that speech on the website you mentioned, Charles?
The Kardec speech on a website, probably in French, right? Or
this Kardec speech, yes. I mean, we have in the French Spiritist Encyclopedia, Encyclopédie Spirit, is Spiritism in French, so with a E behind, .net, N-E-T. You can find hundreds of books, magazines, pictures, and so on, including this one. So you can download it for free in French. And if it does not exist in English, I don't know, Vanessa, if you know, if it has been translated into English. To my knowledge, not. But with Google Translator or other translators today, it will be very easy to understand it.
the book Spiritist Journey, in 1862, all the trips is translated into English. That book.
Spiritist Journey in 1862?
Yeah. The book.
Okay, then it's perfect. You have it in English already. And that is where you find the full transcription of the speech.
Yeah. It's at Amazon. It's at Amazon. Yes. Ingrid has a question. Okay. Oh, you have a slide with the website, please, Charles? Can you show it?
Wait a second. I will just add it here.
Where is it?
So you can see it. www.spirit.net. Can you see it in orange?
Yeah, it's in French though.
There you can find, I mean, we make a kind of an encyclopedia. In Portuguese, you have something equivalent, which is called Kardecpedia, where
Yeah.
you have, by the way, also the images of the French originals.
Because Ingrid would love if we were Spanish, right, Ingrid? Spanish? Doesn't matter, English, Spanish, right?
I learned
In Spanish, you will find it as well. There are several websites in Spain and Argentina or Colombia where you have a lot of books of Kardec also for free download.
Okay.
And this one is probably part of it.
You know, the beauty of this moment with Charles is that we're studying at a time in which we no longer read books, which is sad, right? That's the reality. We watch things, we listen to things, but we don't read. So today, Charles invited us to this moment of quietness. Why is anxiety escalating? Because people don't stop. Read a book and anxiety goes down. When we sit down with Kardec, it's as if you're having tea with Kardec, huh? Because the spirits say when you're reading a book, you're talking with the author. So imagine sitting down and listening to Kardec speaking and talking about it. It's very calming. So reading a book can help us take anxiety levels down. Depression goes away because we're going to open ourselves with new perspectives for the future, as Charles showed to us. So this moment of study is a journey with Kardec, and it's so important. Last year, when our children were studying about Kardec, and they had that full immersion, we dimmed down the lights, actually turned off the lights, lit up the candles, flameless candles, of course, and we had the feather pens. When they had to write and feel the experience, like Kardec's experience, like, oh my gosh, it's not a computer, it's not like a modern pen, it's a little messy. And he wrote all those books you're seeing over the piano and more with a feather pen. Okay? In Chico Xavier's case, everything he psychographed was pencil first, and later he would type in with a typewriter. So when you say, oh my gosh, I can't read those books, just think about the people who wrote them. Huh? And you say, man, it's easy for us to sit down on Kindle and get the books right here and read, even if it's a sentence or two. Science proves to us that it can be very calming. And the quality of these books, they really open our vision of life. I remember once I was at a doctor's office, a homeopathic doctor. And I said, you know, Peter, I would love if you give me a medication to change the way I see about life. Because the way I see it, it's complicating my health. The way I feel about it, it's complicating my health. If you have any medication that could change it? And he laughed, of course. But the medication is here in these books. They change the way we see life. They change the way we feel about life and ourselves. And that's healing. That's where healing is. That's what Charles is saying. It boosts our spiritual intelligence. When Donna Zohar wrote that book about spiritual intelligence, she was also boosting society. And I remember some neuroscientists, colleagues of mine, who knew of her, and they were laughing. Some of them already passed away. And now they're like, oh, she was right. So it doesn't matter when. It matters that for us, if it changes for us, it changes for people in our lives. We don't need them to change, but it needs to change for us. So we are so deeply grateful that on Heart Day, Charles is here with us. We're feeling the core of Spiritism. Society doesn't understand yet, but that's okay. Time will come. 20 years ago, when I saw Charles for the first time, he was so busy organizing so many things and other people in France. I remember how Spiritism was in the United States. We're beginning, we're only 3 years into the English speaking mode. And some people would come to us in Baltimore and say, how do you do that again? How do you speak about Spiritism in English? And I say, well, the same way we do it in Portuguese, the same way we do it in French, the same way. But you use lights, yes, why not? Right? And 20 years later, the growth is organic, but it has grown to levels that here we are. Charles is here on the same boat with us in this universal language together. And things are expanding and growing. For those who are here today, it's our goal. Emmanuel said through Chico Xavier, the greatest charity we can do is share these teachings. First in our actions, but also in the ways Mr. John is always doing. And forgive me for saying this, but he always buys the Happy Life books, What is Spiritism? He has it in his pocket, big pocket, and in his car. And Nina is here, his wife, and she's a testimony of this. Everywhere he goes, right, Nina? Everywhere. Is that true? He's talking to people when he finds a way to share the books. So why not, right, John?
So,
Hmm?
they always give me a way to do it. We were in the doctor's office a couple days ago, and I was waiting for Nina to come out, and we were sitting there, and I mentioned the movie that the Angel Studio was doing called Mother Cabrini.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of people hadn't heard of that movie. There was a lady sitting in the waiting room with us, and she heard me say Mother Cabrini. She asked a question. And I won't go into all the discussion I had with her, but she left. I gave her the copy of the book, and she was just so happy because she had experience with her parents, and she wanted to talk to somebody about the Holy Spirit.
See?
And she left happy.
There you go. Does it hurt? No. On the contrary, it's so good. So I think we are all very grateful to Charles. Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question to him? You can also go to friends and ask him in person.
You'll be welcome. Yeah.
Right?
Yes, sure.
Mentioned it, a book,
A book.
Gospel According to Spiritism, was written while Kardec was at the beach, and no mediums were with him at that time. Is that right?
No mediums were there, right? He was compiled.
No. And he was, how to say, in a state of calm, and even there was a kind of very heavy rain outside and so on. So he was just there writing, and the spirits told, you were in such favorable condition for your inspirations that you do not imagine. So everyone is medium somehow. Kardec was not ostensible medium, as we say, but the inspiration worked perfectly well at that time. So that's under these conditions is, of course, he had prepared, received the communications that he published in the book. It was prepared in a binder to take. He took it with him in order to have the elements of making the books. But I mean, all the texts he wrote himself have been inspired at that place.
Yeah. I remember the letter you gave to us and we put in the Spiritist magazine when Kardec mentioned about it, right? It's one of the issues.
Yes.
It's either last year or the year before. Yeah, we'll rescue that. Friends, I know you want to say thank you, right? Thank you. The children and the teens are not here, but we're so grateful, right? Their friends, right? We're so grateful to you, Charles. We hope that this is our dream, that you can be here in person one day. I know you've been here before in the Washington, D.C. area, but hopefully in the near future you can come by and we do something great together about Kardec. Thank you. And Leon Denis. Right? Today, I know today at 4 p.m.
Yes.
Or 2 p.m. or 4 p.m.? You're gonna talk.
It will be 8 p.m. here, so -6, 20 -6, it's 14, so 2 p.m. for
2
you.
p.m. He's going
The,
to be giving a talk at Kardec Radio about, it's the third part about Camille Flammarion.
the fourth part.
The fourth part, yes,
Okay.
who was a wonderful spiritist. And we have this series throughout the year, and Charles is giving the fourth part of Camille Flammarion. There's so much to learn. Great minds that prepared our pathway so we could be here today. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, and love and peace for each of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, friends, right now, since it's hard day, we still have things ahead of us. Let me share with you, okay? We are going to do the passes now, which is going to be the spiritual passes, okay? Followed, we're going to do the spiritual passes because of what lies ahead. While some of us will be preparing the meal, the tables, others will be here with Fabiana because since it's kindness, it's all about kindness. It's no use to say it without action. So our children already did 2 activities today of kindness to others. One of them was writing on the bags that will be given to the homeless next week in DC. We also prepared bags for the children in the shelter, and we'll ask you guys, the adults, those who can. Some will be with us inside, and the others will be here making peanut butter jelly sandwiches to be given to the shelter today while the meal is being assembled for you, okay? Don't eat the sandwiches, though. I know we're hungry. Let's pray that during the passes, our hunger is tamed, right? Because as Jesus said, you know, you remember that passage when they were walking before he met the woman at the well in Samaria? They were hungry. There was no 7-Eleven. Remember, they were walking by foot. And they stopped at the well, and some of the disciples said, "We're going to the next village to get something to eat." And Jesus said, "Go ahead, I'll wait." Purposefully, he waited because he knew the woman, the Samaritan woman, would come by and he would help her out. After she left, the disciples came by and they said, here's the food. And he said, "I'm good." And remember, he was not bragging about it because he was humble. And they're like, "How come? Aren't you hungry?" He said, there are the ways to nourish ourselves. So when our children are always hungry, aren't they? Always hungry. It's a thing, right? Always. They finish eating and they are like, "I need a snack." What is this? What is this? And in school, every few hours they have a snack, a million snacks throughout the day. We need to teach them to nourish themselves without food, with breathing, calming the mind, connecting with God. But that's another story for another day, right? For now, we want to be grateful to our friend Charles again and prepare ourselves for the passes, okay, friends? So let us dim the lights now. As we are preparing also the water, right? The water. Mr. John, Fabiana, and we are going to play some sound to dance. The dance with the good spirits, feeling the presence of the spirit doctors. Of course, they are here with us. The nurses and the therapists, the spirit teachers, educators. They know exactly what we need. Let us visualize our beloved Master Jesus the doctor of all doctors, the friend of all friends. Let us see his loving smile and his radiant healing heart. He's in front of each one of us, touching our heads with his illuminated hands. And his healing heart radiates so much light, enveloping our minds in new hope. Let us breathe in and out, feeling his loving care permeating our minds and bodies. Breathing in and out, we feel his healing love strengthening us, our minds, our bodies. And as Kardec said, substituting unhealthy molecules by healthy ones. There's no doubt that the power of God's love through him is permeating ourselves at this moment. We feel his powerful presence and we visualize our loved ones receiving this shower of healing light, especially those who are more fragile, in greater need. We visualize ourselves in our homes, opening the door of our homes to the Christ and his loving team. Welcome, dear Master Jesus, to our homes. And we see that he places a vase of healing flowers on our tables to create greater peace, pacifying minds and hearts, radiating to the whole house and rescuing incarnates and discarnates who may be there. And now we visualize the Christ blessing this friendship relationship between the United States of America and France. From its independence, materially speaking, to the spiritual independence of all of us at this moment in these days, crowned by the ambassador of peace, Kardec, who proposes a new order on earth. In your name, dear Lord. Thank you for your kindness, for bringing us together. Please bless the remedies that we were going to drink in the water and the meal we're going to share together. May the people who will be served in Washington, D.C. and the shelter in Reston feel your messengers ahead of us, caring for everyone, bringing harmony and love and deep gratitude. We close these therapeutic moments, educational as they are, hoping to multiply everything we've learned in our daily lives. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, spirit friends. And so be it. Let us receive the water, knowing that the water only has spring water, but the good spirits always pour some pixie dust, which is invisible and remind ourselves that we can do this at home once a week when we stop with our families, open a book, read a message, say a prayer, drink the water. The good spirits come and help us in our daily lives, right? Thank you, Charles. Thank you, friends, also from the internet. We wish you a beautiful day and stay tuned because in an hour, Charles will be back at Kardec Radio to teach us more about Camille Somaria.